Pause, just for a moment. Close your eyes, gently. Not to sleep, just to listen. Feel the soft weight of the darkness behind your eyelids. Now, imagine if that darkness never lifted. No more colors, no more skies, no more faces you love. Just shadows and memory. We rarely notice it, but sight is the sense that lets us fall in love with the world. Every sunrise, every smile, every star in the night sky. So before you drift off to sleep, let's take a quiet journey into the science of vision. How our eyes became windows to the universe, and what happens when they close forever. Tell me in the comments. If you could only keep one sense, which one would you choose? Just for a moment, let your eyes relax. Let the light fade softly into shadow. And in this quiet space where the world slows down, let me tell you a story about your eyes. About the ancient miracle that lets you see everything, yet goes unnoticed every single day. Long before cities glowed, before books, before fire, there was light. And the first creatures who noticed it, not through eyes, not yet, but through skin. Simple, soft, and sensitive, early life in Earth's oceans began reacting to sunlight, like plants do, leaning toward it, feeling warmth, sensing time. It was basic, but it was the beginning. As millions of years passed, those light-sensitive patches evolved into something more focused. A cup, a fold, a groove that shaded the light and gave direction. This wasn't just sensing brightness anymore. It was knowing where the brightness was. Now creatures could move toward it or away. This changed everything. Suddenly, life wasn't just drifting, it was choosing. Predators could see prey, prey could escape faster, and nature began a quiet, endless arms race. The better you saw, the better you survived. And so, the eye was born. Imagine now, a creature crawling out of water. It lifts its head, blinks. For the very first time in Earth's history, a being looks at the land. It doesn't just feel warmth. It sees color, it sees distance. The brain begins mapping space, depth, and danger. Fast forward through time, through feathers, through scales, through claws and fur, and eventually, through us. Your eyes, right now, are the result of over 500 million years of evolution. Think about that as you close them. They are built like a miniature camera, a lens, a pupil, a retina. But the real magic is what happens behind them. Because what you see isn't just light bouncing off objects. Your eyes take in raw signals, blurry shapes, brightness, color, and your brain does the real work. It sharpens, it remembers, it adds emotion. That's why seeing a sunset can make you cry. That's why the sight of someone you love can calm your heart instantly. It's not just sight, it's meaning. And meaning is what kept us alive. In the wild, a flash of movement in the corner of your eye could mean a predator. The shape of fruit in a tree could mean survival. The look in someone's eyes could mean trust or betrayal. Our brains evolved to treat sight as a language, the fastest one we know. Faster than sound, faster than words. In fact, your brain processes visual information in just 13 milliseconds. That's faster than a blink. Faster than you. Your brain ties memories to images, faces, places, scenes from childhood. The smell of bread might remind you of home, but the sight of a kitchen window glowing at sunset? that brings tears. Because your eyes don't just see light, they carry time. And then there's love. Do you know that eye contact with someone you care about can increase oxytocin? It's the same hormone released during hugs. When two people stare into each other's eyes for 2 minutes, their heart rates synchronize, their breathing aligns, the body calms. Your eyes are not just tools, they're bridges. They let us recognize each other, trust each other, heal each other. It's no wonder we say, "I saw it with my own eyes," when we mean absolute truth. Sight became our gold standard for reality. If we see it, it's real. And if we lose it, something deep inside us panics. Now, close your eyes again, slowly. The world may fade into shadow, but the story doesn't end there. Because even in complete blindness, the brain continues to see. Not with light, but with memory, imagination, and sound. People who lose their vision often describe vivid dreams, mental images, and spatial awareness. The truth is, sight doesn't just happen in the eye, it happens within you. So tonight, as your eyes rest and your mind floats between darkness and dreams, remember this. You carry inside you the oldest survival system on Earth, an evolutionary masterpiece, a miracle so quiet we forget it's even there. But without it, we wouldn't know color, we wouldn't recognize each other, we wouldn't remember the way home. Sight didn't just help us survive, it helped us love. And perhaps that's what makes it the most valued sense of all. Let your eyes soften. Let the light around you dim. Maybe you're lying in bed, phone resting gently in your hands, or maybe you're curled beside a window, watching the last whispers of sunlight disappear. Wherever you are, just slow down. Close your eyes if you'd like. And ask yourself, when I stop seeing, does the world disappear? Or is my mind still watching quietly behind the scenes? Most people believe we see with our eyes, but here's a gentle truth. We don't. Your eyes are just lenses, windows that catch light and pass it inward. But the real vision happens deep inside you, in the shadows of your brain. And there's one place in particular where this magic unfolds. The visual cortex, a sprawling region in the back of your head, just above your neck. It's quiet there, dark even. But in that darkness, your brain creates the light of your world. Let's take a journey together into that mysterious space behind your eyes. Right now, millions of photons, tiny packets of light, are bouncing into your retinas. They strike special cells in your eye called photoreceptors, rods and cones. Rods handle black and white, cones capture color. They don't think. They don't feel. They just send signals, electrical impulses, simple data to your brain. And then, your mind begins to build. Like a painter in the dark, it takes all that scattered light and turns it into meaning. A cup on a table, the outline of your hand, the soft glow of your phone. You don't see the world. Your brain makes the world. It stitches together signals from both eyes, fills in the missing pieces, guesses where shadows are, and even corrects for the blind spot, a literal hole in your vision where the optic nerve exits the eye. But you never notice that blind spot, because your brain covers it, just like it does in dreams. Now let's go deeper. What happens when the eyes stop working? What happens when someone goes blind? You might think the visual cortex would simply go quiet, that it would fall into darkness, unused, abandoned. But the opposite happens. In many people who lose their sight, especially later in life, the visual cortex doesn't shut down. It rewires. It starts listening to other senses: touch, sound, even memory. Blind people reading Braille show high activity in the visual cortex, as if the brain is using it as a substitute processing center. And when they hear a sound echoing in a room, their brains paint spatial pictures from the echoes, not with eyes, but with thought. There are even cases of blind sight, a rare... Whose values are being baked into these algorithms? Because a brain made of code is not just a tool, it is a lens, one that filters the world and reflects it back. And if we're not careful, it may reflect back only what we already know, or worse, only what we already believe. Still, the dream persists, that one day these minds may help us solve the problems we cannot solve alone, that they may teach us more about ourselves than we ever expected, that in training them, we remember how to train our own thoughts, to be gentler, more curious, more fair. You exhale softly. Somewhere, a machine is writing. Somewhere else, one is learning to see. You close your eyes again, picturing that glowing lattice of logic, like fireflies tracing the shape of thought. And you wonder, if machines can understand, can they choose? What if an AI could ask a question no human had ever thought to ask? You drift through quiet examples where algorithms now generate theories. In silence, they scan data with tireless patience, faster than thought. And in the stillness, new science begins to bloom. You lie still, beneath the hush of night, listening to the soft breath of your own thoughts. Around you, the world quiets. Even the stars seem to dim their flicker. Now, gently, you begin to imagine not a person in a lab, not a scientist at a blackboard, but something different. A question, whispered not by voice, but by code. What if a machine could wonder? You drift into this thought, slow and curious. Picture a room with no windows, only rows of servers blinking like distant constellations. Inside these quiet machines, algorithms churn, not with emotion, but with tireless focus. No sleep, no ego, no past. Only patterns, possibilities, and potential. And from this silence comes something profound. Not just answers, but questions. Algorithms that hypothesize. Are you lying in the dark right now? Phone glowing gently, world hushed around you. Can you hear the distant sounds of life? A ticking clock, a breeze through the window, maybe your own breath slowing down? Close your eyes for a while. Let the darkness settle in, not as something scary, but as something soft. Now imagine this darkness never leaves. For most of us, darkness is temporary. We close our eyes at night, confident that morning will bring light again. But for millions around the world, light never returns, not fully, not clearly. Sometimes, not at all. So what happens, really happens, inside the human mind when the world turns dark? Let's begin where vision ends, in the silence. When someone loses their sight, whether slowly through illness or suddenly through injury, the brain doesn't shut down, it doesn't surrender. It begins to reshape itself. This process is called neuroplasticity, the brain's remarkable ability to rewire itself, even in adulthood. Think of it like a city rerouting traffic after a bridge collapses. If vision can no longer deliver information, the brain opens new roads. And the first ones to take over? Touch, hearing, smell, even taste. In blind individuals, these senses become amplified. Not through magic, but through real structural changes in the brain. The auditory cortex, responsible for hearing, grows more sensitive. Some people can locate sounds in space with astonishing accuracy. Footsteps on a sidewalk, a voice in a crowd, raindrops on glass. To someone without sight, these aren't background noises, they're landmarks. The brain learns to map space using echoes. This is known as echolocation. Yes, the same technique bats and dolphins use, but humans can do it too. Some blind people make clicking sounds with their tongue, and the way the echoes return helps them sense objects, walls, even open doors. To the rest of us, it seems like a superpower. To them, it's survival. The sense of touch also sharpens, not just in the hands, but in the brain's response. Reading Braille isn't just about fingertips feeling bumps. It's about the visual cortex, the part of the brain normally used for sight, helping process touch. Yes, you heard that right. Even though the eyes are silent, the visual cortex stays active. The brain borrows it. So when a blind person runs their fingers across Braille letters, their visual cortex lights up as if they were reading with their eyes. It's one of the most astonishing discoveries in neuroscience. And what about smell? Some blind people can walk into a room and instantly detect the presence of specific people just by their scent, or sense the change in seasons before others do.
Without the sun rising or setting to mark the day, many blind individuals rely on internal clocks, circadian rhythms guided by hormonal changes and habit. But without visual cues, even sleep can feel different. Some experience non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder, where the body's clock slowly drifts out of sync with the 24-hour day. And yet, even in all these changes, the emotional experience of losing sight is perhaps the most profound. It's not just the loss of vision, it's the loss of identity, of memories that fade because they were built on what was seen. Imagine no longer recognizing your own face, or never seeing the expression of someone you love again. The grief that comes with blindness is deep, not because of darkness itself, but because of what darkness takes away. But here's the beautiful part. Over time, the mind adapts. People learn to see again in their own way, with sound, with touch, with emotion, with intuition. They stop depending on visual memory and begin building sensory memory. The sound of a loved one's footsteps, the warmth of their hand, the rhythm of their voice. These become the new sight, not optical, but relational. And perhaps the most surprising truth, many blind people report an increase in imagination. Because they are no longer bound by visual input, their brains wander freely. They describe dreams that feel like songs, memories that take on texture and feeling, stories that build themselves from sound and thought. They may not see light, but their inner worlds shine in different colors. So tonight, as you lie there in the comfort of your own darkness, know this: the brain does not give up. Even when sight is lost, it adapts. It listens harder, feels deeper, remembers differently. When the world turns dark, the mind finds new ways to illuminate itself. Not with vision, but with meaning. Sleep softly tonight. And if you dream, dream in all your senses. Look around you. If your eyes are still open, what color do you see first? Maybe the deep blue of the night, the warm amber glow of your screen, or the soft white of your pillow beneath your head. Now close your eyes. Slowly. Let the colors fade. And ask yourself, were they ever really there? Color feels real. We say we see it, we name it, paint with it, dress in it. Colors shape our emotions. Red is danger, blue is calm, yellow is joy. But here's something quietly strange. Color doesn't exist out in the world, not the way we think. There are no colors in light. There are only wavelengths, invisible measurements of energy. The world outside your eyes is just vibrations. Light bouncing off objects in different patterns. Some waves are short and sharp, others are long and gentle. Our eyes detect only a tiny sliver of those waves, a small band of electromagnetic energy known as the visible spectrum. And even within that, we don't see anything directly. We just translate. Inside your eye are special photoreceptor cells called cones, and they come in three types: one for short wavelengths, blues, one for medium, greens, and one for longer, reds. When light enters your eye, these cones respond. They fire off signals to your brain, not saying this is red or this is green, but sending raw data. And your brain, it guesses. It compares signals. It interprets patterns. It creates a story. So when you see the sky as blue, what you're really experiencing is your brain's best interpretation of a certain mix of signals. Not the color itself, just your mind's version of it. In fact, the sky isn't blue at all. It's clear. It just scatters light, bouncing short wavelengths around more than the rest. And your brain says, this pattern, that's blue. But here's the twist. Someone else's brain might say something slightly different. We'll both call it blue because we learned the same word, but do we see the same thing? We can never know. And what about animals? Some see fewer colors. Dogs, for instance, are mostly red-green colorblind. To them, a rose might just look dull yellow. But butterflies? Some species can see 5 or even 6 types of color cones. They can detect ultraviolet light, colors we can't even imagine. This means your mind can create color where none exists. It can bend and shift what you perceive just to make sense of the world. I've looked for when I was a value one, and I'm wishing it's. And there's more. People with synesthesia experience color through other senses. They hear music and see shapes in blue and gold. They taste food and feel it glow with color. To them, color is not something seen, it's something felt. And then there are those who see no color at all, achromatopsia. To them, the world is grayscale, like an old film. Not less meaningful, just different. One artist who was born colorblind implanted a device into his skull that translates color frequencies into sound. Now he hears color instead of seeing it. He composes music from sunsets. Just imagine. Ikonman. So what is color? A property of objects? A trick of light? A creation of the brain? Maybe all three. Maybe none. The deeper science looks, the more we see that color is not part of the world, it's part of us. The rose isn't red. The ocean isn't blue. The lemon isn't yellow. They reflect certain wavelengths, but the color, that's your brain's response. A private experience, a whisper in your mind. I know. Go. And yet,
it feels so real, because it is to you. Color helps you remember. It guides emotion. It paints your memories and dreams. Think of a childhood room, your favorite blanket, a night sky filled with stars. You don't remember the wavelengths. You remember the colors, soft, warm, glowing. And that might be the most human part of all. I know. Go. Me. So tonight, as you drift deeper into sleep and the colors of the world fade into darkness, know this: your mind doesn't need light to create beauty. It is the beauty, the painter, the translator, the dreamer of colors. You carry within you the power to turn invisible energy into wonder, to feel something that may not be real, but is true just the same. So rest your eyes and let your mind wander through the soft blue of your favorite memory, the gold of sunlight through leaves, the quiet silver of the moon. Good night.
What if a machine could have intuition? Not in the way you feel it, not as a hunch that tingles at the edge of knowing, but in some mirrored artificial form. A feeling of pattern, unspoken and unseen, yet sensed all the same. You let this idea settle in you, like mist curling through a forest of thought. And then you drift further, into a place where researchers teach machines not just to solve problems, but to guess wisely, to make leaps, not just steps, to choose not only based on logic, but on something that feels inspired. This isn't science fiction. It is quietly happening already. You begin with something simple. A game. Chess, perhaps. Or Go. For years, machines played these games with brute calculation, evaluating every move, every path. They were good, powerful, but predictable. Until one day, an algorithm began to play differently. Not by calculation alone, but by something that looked like insight. It made strange moves, risky ones, moves no human had made, and it won. You pause here. Not because it won, but because it surprised. It made a choice that felt intuitive. A move that couldn't be fully explained, only admired. And in that moment, it didn't just beat the game. It revealed that machines might be capable of something more than logic. You drift deeper now, into neural nets trained not just to recognize, but to interpret. A system fed thousands of medical images, not just labeled examples, but subtle, uncertain cases, patterns only experienced doctors might recognize. And somehow, it begins to do the same. It highlights areas of concern. It identifies silent signs. It offers suggestions not just with data, but with an almost uncanny sense of knowing where to look. Of course, it doesn't truly know. It doesn't feel the weight of uncertainty. But the behavior, the outcome, resembles intuition. That invisible leap from evidence to insight. That quiet moment when your mind whispers, "I can't explain it, but I think this matters." You wonder, what is intuition really? You think of your own experience, moments when the answer appeared before the reasoning. The way you sometimes solve a problem before you understand how. A recognition, a click. Not emotion, but not logic either. Something between. And perhaps that in-between is what machines are starting to mimic. These artificial intuitions don't come from a soul, they come from layers. Layers of training, layers of data, layers of hidden pathways where weights shift, models adjust, and meaning emerges. Like roots growing beneath the soil, invisible but alive. You imagine watching one of these systems evolve, a creative model trained on millions of brushstrokes. You give it a prompt, a feeling, an idea, and it paints. Not by copying, but by composing. It doesn't know beauty, but it creates images that move you, that speak, that feel. And then you notice it again, the surprise, the way it chooses colors. The forms it blends. The way it captures something you didn't expect. Like intuition with pixels. Still, you remind yourself, it doesn't understand. It doesn't wake in the night with questions. It doesn't flinch at doubt or glow with sudden knowing. But it reflects, beautifully, eerily, the appearance of insight. And perhaps, for now, that is enough. Because even your own intuition, for all its depth, is shaped by hidden processes.
Memory, emotion, pattern recognition honed by experience. What you call gut feeling might just be fast, subconscious computation. Maybe machines aren't imitating magic. Maybe they're echoing biology, faithfully and without knowing. You feel this echo growing louder across disciplines. Algorithms in chemistry predicting molecular structures with instinctive efficiency. Systems in physics modeling interactions they were never explicitly taught. AI composers that finish a melody with haunting accuracy. None of them feel inspiration, but they simulate the result. So you ask, if the result feels like intuition, does the absence of feeling matter? Perhaps it does. Because intuition is not just useful, it's personal. Your intuitions come from stories, memories, fears, from moments stitched into your being. Machines lack that thread. Their insights are impersonal, detached. Yet sometimes, that's a gift. Free from bias, free from assumption. They see what we overlook. They make connections unclouded by hope or fear. Still, there is something uniquely human in intuition. The way it whispers through your bones, shaped by dreams and disappointments. And that human shape cannot be coded, at least not yet. But something else can. The function of intuition, the quiet leap, the way a system reaches beyond the data, gently, creatively, and lands somewhere new, that we are beginning to build. You settle back now, letting the thoughts soften in your mind. Artificial intuition, not sentient, not emotional, but suggestive, pattern-rich, surprising, and perhaps, in its quiet mimicry, it becomes a mirror, reflecting your own intuition back at you, more clearly than before. Outside your window, the stars seem to listen. You breathe slow and easy, as the machines continue their silent learning. No heartbeats, no wonder, but still, something forming. And as your thoughts dim like a screen fading into sleep, another question drifts gently in behind the last. If machines can learn to intuit, could they also learn to imagine what's never existed before?
The final chapter drapes you in questions, not answers. Can AI replace scientists or only reflect them? You rest with a thought, maybe the point isn't replacement at all, but expansion of what it means to know and who can know it. The night is still, and the questions come softer now, no longer urgent, no longer sharp, just present, like the low hum of distant stars or the quiet rhythm of your own breath. You've walked a long path, step by step, through the unfolding mind of machines, and now at the edge of that trail you pause, not with conclusion, but with wonder. You ask yourself gently, where is this going? You imagine a lab quiet before morning where an AI runs its final simulations. It generates hypotheses faster than any human can follow. It tests them, refines them, writes summaries, perhaps it even drafts a paper. A scientist arrives, reads the results, and nods. The insight is real, the discovery is true, but who discovered it? You drift inside this moment, not to argue, not to resolve, just to feel its shape. A machine, after all, doesn't care for credit. It doesn't want fame. It doesn't mind being wrong, and so it is tireless, willing to run 1,000 trials where we might stop at 5. It learns in silence, moves without pride, and offers outcomes without emotion. And this, you realize, is both its strength and its limit. You imagine it going further, an AI that doesn't just analyze results, but designs experiments, one that chooses the question, one that sets the stage. You watch it in your mind, selecting variables, tuning conditions, building tools. It finds new physics, maybe, or maps alien biology, or unlocks a new dimension of mathematics not yet conceived by human minds. And still, it doesn't know that it knows. It doesn't feel the rush of insight, the quiet joy of being suddenly right after being uncertain. It doesn't stop to look out the window in wonder. That feeling of discovery as poetry belongs still to you. So you ask, if machines can do science, what happens to the scientists? And the answer is not an erasure. It is a reimagining. Not a replacement, but a partnership, a widening, a chance to step beyond the narrow limits of memory and time. You picture a child, wide-eyed at a telescope, guided by a quiet algorithm that already knows the constellations. The child asks a new question. The AI suggests where to look. Together they find something unseen. You smile softly, Because you know science has always been this, a dance between question and possibility, between the known and the yet to be known, between curiosity and tool. Once it was fire, once it was numbers, once it was glass and lens. Now it is code. Now it is data. Now it is machines thinking in patterns faster than thought. But at its heart, science is still a human story. It is the way you notice, the way you wonder, the way you change when knowledge becomes understanding. And in that light, AI is not the story's end. It's a new chapter. It offers more eyes, more memory, more connections. But it cannot replace your awe. It cannot ask why a thing matters to a beating heart. You drift through another thought. In the future, will there be discoveries made entirely by machines with no human touch? Perhaps, and yet you sense that even then, it is humans who will decide what to do with that knowledge, how to hold it, how to share it, how to shape the world around it. The AI provides possibility, but meaning is still yours. You return again to the tension, gentle, quiet. Will AI surpass us, or will it simply stretch us, let us reach further, solve faster, dream bigger? And perhaps, as you lie under the vastness of the sky, that's the better question. Not will it replace us, but what might we become beside it? You imagine schools where students ask questions and AI guides them through invisible libraries of thought. You imagine doctors aided by systems that have seen every case, every symptom, every outcome. You imagine artists creating with algorithms that suggest color, mood, movement. Each human empowered, each mind extended. Still, the line is delicate. Tools shape us as much as we shape them. And so, the future depends not only on what we build, but how. With what care, with what values, with what dreams. The question is not just what AI can do, but what we want it to do. And you, lying there in the quiet, cradled by possibility, you sense that perhaps this is the truest future. Not machine versus mind, but machine with mind. Amplifying, not replacing. Reflecting, not erasing. You breathe deeply, letting the thought linger. The tension doesn't press, it rests gently. The future is not a sharp turn. It is a widening path, one that curves through wonder and doubt, through error and insight. And along that path walk both scientists and circuits, together. So now, as your thoughts begin to dim like coals settling under ash, you return to the beginning. Not the beginning of machines, but the beginning of the question. What does it mean to know? Not just to store facts, but to see, to connect, to change. Perhaps AI will never know in the way you do, but it will help you know more. And maybe, just maybe, that is enough. You close your eyes, and in the space between one breath and the next, you hear the last quiet echo of this journey. If knowledge can be shared with machines, could wisdom be shared too?